All right, should be a very interesting game on Friday night in Class 4A between Hampshire and Genoa. Hampshire, a team coming off winning 6 games in a row after that 0-3 start in Genoa-Kingston, a team looking to kind of extend themselves after a little run last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Cogs, really made a kind of splash on the scene last year. They snapped a long playoff drought, I think, that extended back to 1993, and so last year was a nice season for them. They made it to the second round, and they're back this year. So 2 in a row, they're kind of making the right steps there. Coach Bill McCarty certainly has that program in the right direction. Hampshire, between these two teams, maybe a little more tradition there. They've traditionally been in the postseason the past few years. They missed out last year going 5-4, and that was a goal for them to get back. And the Whippers certainly took care of business with that 6-game winning streak that they're on. And breaking down this game, I like all the area playoff games this week, but I think this one's going to be especially competitive, maybe the most out of all the games, and certainly going to be a very, very interesting affair. Pretty evenly matched teams on paper when you look at them. They do a lot of defense first. They can play defense. They can throw the ball a little bit. They prefer to run. I mean, they're just very similar in makeup, and it's not surprising considering that they're just down the road from one another. So a lot goes into this game. A good rivalry. Genoa-Kingston last year beat Hampshire, and that snapped a 10-game losing streak against Hampshire. Hampshire's had the upper hand for the most part in this series, but the Whips could not handle GK last season. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year. I think it's going to be a pretty good matchup, and very similar teams.
All right, as far as players to watch from both sides, then.
Yeah, I think for Hampshire, you got to look at quarterback Evan Brenner. He plays on both sides of the ball, and then James Gobert, another two-way player, standouts, and certainly those two guys are 2 players to watch and 2 keys for Hampshire. At GK, TC Holterhouse is a two-way player, a good receiver, good defensive back, and he can certainly make an impact. And quarterback Chris Wilkins is a threat to throw and run. He's a real deal. He's tough to stop for any team, and those are a couple guys to keep an eye on.
All right, Eric, now it's time. You might break some hearts here in the area, but who do you like in this game?
Yeah, this is a tough pick, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This could go either way. I think it's pretty much a toss-up. I'm going to give the edge to Genoa-Kingston. I think the Cogs playing at home. They had that playoffs run last year. I think that they've had a little tougher road going against Big Northern West teams. Not as strong in the Big Northern East. So I'm going to give the Cogs the edge, but this really could go either way, more so probably than any game this week. But I'm going to go with Genoa-Kingston at home.
All right, we'll see how that experience works out for the Cogs on Friday night. Moving into Class 8A then, Bartlett, number 1 seed in Class 8A, or one of the 2 number 1 seeds. They'll be taking on number 16 Niles Notre Dame.
Yeah, the Hawks coming in undefeated. They got what they wanted. They got the undefeated season. They won the Upstate Conference, but this team isn't satisfied. For Bartlett, they're pretty hungry. They haven't won a playoff game in 4 years, so none of the guys on this year's team have tasted a playoff victory since they've even been in high school anywhere in the program. This is I believe the 9th straight year in the postseason for Bartlett, but they're only 2-8 all time in playoff games, so not a lot of playoff history there. Bartlett really wants to get going on regular season, but the postseason they've obviously had some trouble.
And talk about Niles Notre Dame's defense. I mean, we were looking at the stats earlier. Only 96 points allowed in the regular season. I mean, pretty impressive for a team. You see them 5-4. I mean, much better than that.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly it says something that they're playing in the East Suburban Catholic Conference, and they're one of 6 teams from that conference that made the playoffs. So that just goes to show that the Dons are really playing a playoff-type atmosphere every single week. They got some pretty stiff competition, and just getting into the playoffs for them is an accomplishment. So they certainly are fully capable in this game. That defense is really something. They can stop teams. They're going to give Bartlett's offense a lot of trouble. Bartlett's had trouble running the ball this season, and it might be the case again. That front 7, I think, from what I understand, for Niles Notre Dame is very tough. And offensively, they like to spread things out. That could present some problems for Bartlett's defense, which has been very tough against the run. So I think on both sides it could be matchup problems, and should be a very competitive game, maybe a little more so than you expect from a 1-16 game.
All right, and players you like in this one, or players to watch?
I think for Niles Notre Dame, quarterback Erik Hennessy, the son of the coach, Michael Hennessy, is a very good player. Got to give credit to the quarterback. He can handle things pretty well. They got a lot of talent on that team, though. And for Bartlett, same kind of thing. Quarterback Josh Hastenberg's kind of the guy that makes that offense go, so you got to give him a nod. And on defense, Kyle Zielinski, the middle linebacker, is a stud, and he's a player to watch for Bartlett.
All right, and then Eric, your pick?
Well, this is a tough one. I think Niles Notre Dame is certainly going to come in and give them a game, but I've been with Bartlett all season. From before the year, you kind of got a sense that this is going to be a special team, and I haven't picked against them yet, and I probably can't do it in week 1 of the playoffs. So definitely going to go with Bartlett here. I think they can take care of business, but expect maybe a little closer game than you might expect from a number 1 seed in the postseason.
All right, then in Class 7A, St. Charles North is an 11th seed. Is going to be traveling to take on Crystal Lake South, number 6. St. Charles North coming off a nice win last week against Neuqua Valley, but Crystal Lake South they did too. A win over another 7A playoff team, Woodstock.
Yes, both teams have had a pretty good schedule this season, and St. Charles North certainly made open some eyes, I think, with that shutout 20-0 win against Neuqua Valley last week. Sent the Wildcats home for the postseason, and North they had some common opponents. North started out the season playing a pair of Fox Valley Conference teams. The North Stars lost to Cary Grove in a heartbreaking 3-point loss, and then went on and beat McHenry the next week. And those are teams that Crystal Lake plays every year. So the Gators, like North, beat McHenry, lost to Cary Grove. So common opponents are pretty even. I like this game to be pretty even. Pretty even matchup going into this one.
And as far as players to watch from both sides,
if Crystal Lake South, sophomore quarterback Drew Ormseth has really come a long ways this season, and he's a young player, but you've noticed through the years his stats have kind of gotten better and better, and they can throw the ball, and it's a balanced attack for the Gators. So that's something that North's going to have to pay attention to on defense. That Crystal Lake South can move the ball through the air or on the ground. For the North Stars, I'll give junior running back Jordan Huxtable has been a difference maker this year. He's really been a key on offense. When he goes, the team goes pretty well. And then on defense, Jake Jariga, the linebacker, is a pretty big key for the North Stars on defense.
So it should be a pretty good game. Eric, who do you like though in that one?
I think St. Charles North is going to go on the road and pull off. This would be considered an upset, so I guess it's my upset special. And I've kind of had the North Stars all season penciled in as an upset team. I think North's got a lot of talent there, and this is the time to shine. It's kind of been an up and down season for North this year. They come to play some weeks, and then other weeks you kind of wonder where the focus is. But I think they're going to be coming in very focused this week, and I think St. Charles North is capable of pulling off the upset, and I'm going to pick them.
All right, staying in Class 7A then, St. Charles East, a team with the number 7 seed, is going to be taking on a number 10 seed, Lake Zurich. St. Charles East, a couple impressive wins in the season over playoff teams with Bouncy St. Charles North. Lake Zurich, they knocked off an 8A team, Frem. They knocked off Libertyville. So a couple teams with some good, they're playoff tested already.
Exactly, and playoff history for East. They've been in the playoffs a couple years in a row, making a nice run under Coach Ted Munkin. But how about over at Lake Zurich? They were the state champ last year. They finished second the year before. These guys know how to win. The record might not be there this season, but certainly there's a tradition of winning over at Lake Zurich. And I think the Bears are going to come into Saturday's game fully expecting to win. They've been here before. They can do it. But so is St. Charles East. They've won playoff games the past couple of years. So this is actually kind of a very interesting matchup, kind of a battle of the Titans around, and should be pretty interesting from start to finish.
All right, and as far as players to watch in that one?
Lake Zurich's got a host of players on both sides of the ball that make big impacts. Andrew Maloney kind of leads the ground attack, so I'll give a nod to him. He seems like a key guy, but the Bears certainly have a number of players who can step up and make an impact. And then for St. Charles East,
quite the runner over there.
I was going to say, need I say more? Wes Allen. That guy's running for close to 200 yards per game. He's run for 6 touchdowns in a single game twice this season. Everything goes through him. He's the man for St. Charles East's offense. I mean, if you ask him, he'd give credit to that front line that's done a nice job. But Wes Allen's the player to watch for St. Charles East.
And who do you like in that one?
Yeah, I think St. Charles East, the home field, I expect the Saints to come ready to play, so I'm going to take St. Charles East. But Lake Zurich, like I said, has a tradition, and they're going to give the Saints everything they can handle. But I think St. Charles East has got the edge, and they're going to march into the second round.
All right, so Eric foresees a very, very good weekend in St. Charles for both sides of town.
Exactly.
Moving on to Class 6A then. Huntley, they earned a 5th seed. They're going to be taking on a number 12 Batavia team. Both teams coming off disappointing losses last week. Huntley closed out the regular season with a loss at Johnsburg. Meanwhile, Batavia was throttled by Geneva. Very good Geneva team, but you don't want to lose 47-14 to anybody.
No, it's hard to pick out which one's more disappointing. I mean, that's the arch rival for Batavia, and they got drubbed by Geneva, which is a state powerhouse. They're one of the favorites in Class 7. So you give Batavia a little credit there, but still, you'd like to have a better showing going in. Huntley, meanwhile, really shocked me that they went in and they had gone 8-0 all season. They had a huge win against Prairie Ridge in Week 8, and then they go in and lose to Johnsburg. I mean, not that Johnsburg's not a capable squad. They can certainly throw the ball around, but I was pretty surprised by that loss. So both teams are kind of licking their wounds coming in, and that makes for a very interesting matchup this week, and certainly should be interesting to see which team can rebound better from last week's disappointment.
And players to watch from both sides in that one.
Yeah, Batavia, Jordan Coffey, the quarterback, is certainly the guy who makes that offense go. He can throw the ball. They like to move the ball around through the air, do the Bulldogs, and so he's certainly the guy there. And for Huntley, Jordan Newkirk is the man. I mean, they got a lot of talent there, but he's the workhorse on offense. He can run the ball, he can catch the ball. On defense, he's a linebacker, key player. I mean, that guy's doing it all for Huntley all season long. So he's certainly the player to watch for the Red Raiders.
And who do you like in that one?
Well, this is a very difficult pick. Huntley.
It's the NCAA 5-12 matchup.
Exactly, it is. That certainly is what it is. 5-12 always catches me off guard, and it's always good to pick a 12. I think Batavia has a little more playoff history. Maybe a little more tested. They'll be able to come back and be focused this week. So I'm going to take the Bulldogs to come in and upset Huntley on the road. Last week's loss for Huntley kind of raised some questions. So the Raiders certainly capable of rebounding, playing better, but I'm going to go with Batavia here.
All right, a couple upsets on the docket according to Erik. Be sure to check out the Courier News on Friday for in-depth features as well as game previews on all the weekend's area football action.
And make sure to check the paper on Saturday for recaps of Friday night's games, and then again on Sunday for the recap of the one Saturday night game between St. Charles East and Lake Zurich.
And all weekend long, or I guess I should say all postseason long, be sure to take a look at the All-Around E-Town blog. Erik and the rest of the Courier staff will be writing about all the playoff action in the area. And then on late Saturday night, be sure to check out the Courier News online as we will be putting up game highlights from the Hampshire Genoa-Kingston contest from Friday night. So for Erik Jacobsen, I'm Rohr. We'll see you next week for more great playoff action in the area.